past, current, and future of content marketing, video marketing, organic social media marketing. There's kind of 4 phases. Phase 1, the wild, wild west, early social media, mostly email, SEO, paid ads. That's kind of what marketing was. It wasn't like this huge social media and video aspect to it.
It's hard to imagine that there was a time like that.
Phase 2, early adopters, the beginning of video era, the emergence of the micro influencer, people like me. Phase 3, majority adopters. Most companies will make the leap to doing more modern, value-driven video content and social media content. We're in the AI evolution. We all turn into robots. Phase 4, late adopters. People are just going to find more unique ways to deliver good, solid intellectual messages that do provide value in more entertaining ways. I've got sort of a theory or a hypothesis on where we're at in the modern era of social media, where we've been. I'd like to go back a little bit to talk about where we've been the past few years, where we are right now, this moment in time, and then where I think it's going to be going over the next few years. So grab your pens, grab your pieces of paper, or grab your digital notes app and start taking some notes, because we're going to dive in on this. And Dee, by the way, welcome to the show.
Hi, Alex. Thank you for having me again on this episode. Excited to talk about our topic today. We're finally talking about marketing. Yay.
Fresh off the California trip, got to see a client in person, do some filming, do some strategy, do some tactical work with the team. But I'm glad to be back home. It's always like when you're gone from home, you get excited, you appreciate, and you love the adventure of seeing a new place or meeting new people and being exposed to different things. But then when you get back home, you walk in the front door and you're just like, yes, home. Like you just, it's that like, and then you lay in your bed and it's your bed. Just like nothing feels like home, But as I mentioned, today's episode is really about the past, current, and future of content marketing, video marketing, organic social media marketing. So let's dive in. I think, as I was kind of taking notes on this episode, Dee, and I know I shared them with you, you've been with us now for a couple of years, so you've gotten to see like some of the transitions that we've made and just what's happened in the marketplace in general with B2B companies. But there's kind of 4 phases, I believe. So I just kind of wrote down like where are we at in the past and where are we going? And so I want to just walk through these phases. Maybe we'll pause at each phase and just have a little bit of dialogue around it. You cool with that, Dee?
Yeah, sure.
And this is all, keep in mind, like I think from a high level, what we're seeing happen and what we've seen happen over the past decade or so, I would say really in the last few years, even if you something I think everyone would understand, look at what happened with cable networks, TV shows. We saw the same thing happen to radio when TV came out, how it shifted to people just wanted to watch TV. Wasn't that radio went away, it just became less of a factor. And then there was TV was monster, and that was huge. And that was, the ads on TV, and it was all about, could you get a TV show? Could you get that's how you got the attention from a large group amount of people, potential customers. And then social media came out and it kind of changed the game. Podcasting came out and it changed the game. YouTube came out and it changed the game. So I think, if you look at some of the numbers, I read a stat the other day, I can't remember exactly what it was, Dee, but it was like, podcasting and YouTube are now bigger than Netflix and some of the other ones. So it's really changed the entire landscape and it's good for the founder. It's really good for us. That's why we have to take advantage of this today. And some of that's what we're going to talk about, how to take advantage of it. But if you think about it, the attention has just shifted so much to where it used to be like down one narrow stream and you had to pay a lot of money to get millions of views and attention and that kind of your face in front of that kind of amount of customers or audience, where now it's just an open gate. The floodgates are open. Anyone can start a podcast. Anyone can do this. We now just told you we started this with a smartphone. Anyone can start their own LinkedIn profile, their YouTube channel, whatever the case may be. So it's opening up. So I'm going to walk through these 4 phases where I think we've been, current, and then where we're going as it relates to organic social media content. I'm talking LinkedIn, podcast, YouTube, TikTok, things like that. Okay. We're not necessarily talking about paid ads. We're not necessarily talking about SEO and website and that kind of stuff. Okay. Even though I do think there's obviously a place for that. So phase 1 was the wild, wild west of social media. And so for me, that was like, and really modern day video content, which was like 2010, I'm kind of rough estimating here, roughly like 2010 to 2017. It was just like so new. When did Facebook really hit? Like it probably wasn't until 2008, 2009, something like that, right? Like I remember being in, this is before I graduated. And I remember Facebook being around, but it was like you had to be in college. Like you had to have a college email address to get on Facebook. And then they were like, oh, we should open this up to the entire world and make billions of dollars. And then they did that. I think that was kind of always the plan, but they had to test it at a small market first. So it was so new. And then like Instagram came along, but it was just like, I don't think it was a serious like business tactic or strategy, right? It wasn't like all these B2B companies were sitting around saying, what are we doing from a social media perspective to grow our business? Like, and there's still not, a lot of them are still not doing that today, which is sad. But it was just very early. It was really early. So I think if you look at 2010, 2017, very few companies are doing video, LinkedIn content. Video was only introduced to LinkedIn in 2017. Did you know that?
No.
So if you think about it, I started doing video in 2019 on LinkedIn. That was only like probably maybe 2 years in to LinkedIn even having that as a feature, which is kind of crazy. It actually, like going back on this, it made me reflect, and I was like, wow, it's really early. Like for some reason you just think like it's been around for so long, social media, video content, but you think about 2010, 2017. So D, that's like 7 years ago, and it was in the Wild Wild West. We've been doing this for 4+ years. So we're like OGs in the game when you think about it. And that's what's cool. Like, that's what I love about this is if you're 4 or 5 years in, you're one of the most experienced people in a lot of ways of modern day content, definitely LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So I think, again, back in the Wild Wild West, phase 1, early social media, not many people, definitely not businesses taking it really seriously. You didn't really see the way the entrepreneur is building their personal brand today, like you did back then. They were like the early dudes and gals were getting started, like the Gary V's, Grant Cardone's. So they were doing it back then, but it wasn't on the scale and stage that it is today. And in a lot of ways, their efforts paid off from doing it back in the Wild Wild West to where it is today. Mm-hmm. But it was just like mostly email, early social, SEO, paid ads. Like that's kind of what marketing was. When you talked about marketing, it wasn't like this huge social media and video aspect to it. So that's how I think about phase 1. Dee, I'd be curious to get your thoughts on that. The Wild Wild West.
Yeah, actually, when like today, it's hard to think of a time when only a few companies or brands were doing like content on social media, especially video content. Like it's hard to imagine that there was a time like that. It feels like it has always been there. But when you think of it, it was just a few years ago, actually. And the rate and the scale that it has grown over the years, in the recent years, that's what makes it feel like it has always been there, because now it's everywhere. It's part of our lives. Like we don't even stop to look at it anymore because it feels natural for it to be there. It doesn't feel like ads anymore because more and more organic type of content are being put out. So that's how I feel about it, thinking about it, like given my age and like my background. And how I've been scrolling over social media. Like
that is literally exactly how I felt like going through this. Cause I was thinking, wait, do I got my dates mixed up here? I was like 2010 to 17. I was like, that was 7 years ago. Like that just wasn't that long ago. And I was thinking, wow, that really like gives me just a whole new perspective on this thing. And so, yeah, so that's phase 1. I think, and you're right. Like we use it in our daily lives so much now to where and I think it's been years now, but because we use it so much, it just, you almost forget that it was like, what was it like when it wasn't there? And I think we're at a cool age, being in our 30s, like where we got to see before, the really the internet was what it is today. And we're definitely social media. Like we remember as kids, we didn't have social media really as young kids. So we got to see like the kind of the evolution of how this all played out. And I think you got to be, even for me, like I'll be totally honest here. I'm sure people can relate. There are times when I have to check myself and say, dude, you're like going to the apps too much and you're just checking things. You're being, what I never want to try to be is reactive, where you pick up your phone and you're like, your mind is literally on autopilot. Like that's how good they've gotten these little, they've gotten so good at it that they just like the dopamine or just the need to feel like you're not going to miss out on something. And you end up pulling out your phone. And for me, it's like LinkedIn and this and email. And, I just go to a few different things and the WhatsApp for the team chat. And I just find myself like, what am I doing? Like there are times when I need to check that, obviously. But there are certain times when I'm just literally doing it. And it's like my brain's on autopilot. So I think being aware of that is very important. And two, actually make it a conscious effort to do something about it, whether it's put your phone in the other room and just let it charge, or having certain periods of time when you kind of check in and when you bounce back out. I do think there needs to be limitations, at least for me. That's how I feel. But so that's phase one. Then we went into phase two, which was a very exciting time for us, me, our company, Impacts Marketing, because that was the phase two was the early adopters phase. So, and again, I totally understand. There was the very, very early adopters were in the Wild Wild West. Totally get that. But for the most part, on what content is today, in terms of like modern day social media, LinkedIn, video, vertical short form, that was all really in the last few years. The early adopters were 2018 to 2024. And so I say that even today, because if you look at the majority of people, I think the last stat I saw on LinkedIn was, it's like 2% of people post weekly on LinkedIn out of the users, the active users. So it's still, how are you not an early adapter if you're starting today? So I think that's the good part. If you're a founder listening to like, oh man, I didn't get started in 2019, 2020, 2021. It's all good. It's all good. You're still an early adopter if you're getting very serious about it today. You're not an early adopter if you're just posting, 1 or 2 times a week. And it's just like company announcements and, hey, we're going to be at this event, or, hey, it's, this is something we're celebrating. Like, that's not what I mean. But I mean, if you've really got a strategy and you're serious about it and you're putting yourself out there, building your brand, in my mind, you're still an early adapter in a lot of ways. So we see, what do we see at phase two, 2018, 2024? We saw the beginning of the video era, like especially short form vertical. Like it really took off. TikTok started to get huge. It influenced Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. LinkedIn just rolled out their new TikTok style video feed that they're beta testing. And so, a lot of interesting things started happening. I think we saw the emergence of the, what I would call like micro influencer. So, you've got the big name, the Hormozis, the Gary V's, that kind of stuff. But you had a lot of micro influencers. People with tens of thousands of followers, but that were building brands and building businesses. People like me, I think, what we saw was a big emergence in that, where it's like the average person coming up that could, build their brand and build a company off the back of it, grow a legitimate business off building a brand, not needing to have, millions of followers and be famous. Right? Like you could just pick up your phone and start recording. So I think what's still, and then we've got AI. I put AI in this mix too, because I didn't want to not talk about AI. Really 2018 to 2024. And I would even say, I'm sure you would agree, really just the last year and a half with AI, like where it's really ChatGPT, November 2022, I think it was, where it just took off. But the thing you'll see at phase two is like, yes, a lot of early adapters, some people doing it really well. But what you also see is a lot of companies that tried to get in as an early adopter, but end up just having no strategy and the execution wasn't there. And so it was almost like it became this thing where a lot of companies, B2B companies, started doing it. And they started to say things like, we're active on social media, or we have a content strategy. But then when you look at it, it's like that the surface level post, or it's, a social media manager that's posting on their behalf that really doesn't understand how to drive business and revenue and how to build a legitimate brand off the back of content. And so what we just saw, and that's why we're so busy right now, is because we're seeing a lot of companies that are in this early adopter period, but they don't know how. So they're like, yes, we want to start doing video. We want to start doing LinkedIn, social media, podcasting, even YouTube. but we feel like we're just kind of like checking the boxes with the content. It's like, yeah, we're getting stuff out. So technically we're there, but we don't have the skill set. We don't have the strategy. We don't have the proven results. Therefore, we need someone to come in and help us build this out. I also think, I'll say one more thing, and I don't want to hog the mic too much, D, but this was also the stage where we started to see the shift from using external marketing agencies to do all of your content to now companies starting to build their own internal content video marketing teams. Obviously, that's what we help companies do. That is the future, 100%, because of the cost, because of the technologies at your fingertips, because it's more effective to do it internally. A million reasons why, but that was a big, big shift that if you just go back 5 years, marketing agencies were flourishing. It was very common to use them. And now I think what you're going to see over the next 3 to 5 years, we'll get into phase 3 here in a second, but I think you'll see a very different approach with marketing agencies. D, what's your thought on phase 2, early adopters?
I think you're right with everything, and I think it's probably a relief for a lot of founders to hear you say that this is still a good time to start posting content, and they could still be early adopters if they're consistently posting right now and creating their content, because I'm sure a lot of people are starting to get worried that it might be getting saturated and it might be too late for them to be creating content. But I think that to create content right now is actually a sweet spot, because if you started like years ago, you wouldn't have the technology that we have right now to make it easier for you. Now, like, phones have the best cameras, like you can get like cheaper mics and have good audio, and you have AI to assist you. You have like, there's so many tools that you can use now to make content creation easy for you. And still, you're an early adopter. Like, that's a win-win. Like, there's just no reason to not get into it now, like, for any founder. And you're also right. Like, if they started like maybe a few years ago, they'd be first at it. But the trend then was to start working with agencies. But now you have these new options where you can actually build your content team within your company, and there are people who can help you with that, like us. So this is actually, like, for me, this is like a really good time, like more than years ago, like more than next year, like now is best.
Yeah, I think you nailed it with the technology piece too, because it's like, yeah, you could, if you think about phase 1, 2010, 2017, yeah, you could have started then. That's great. But also, like, the technology wasn't as good. It was kind of there, like there was decent phones and cameras, but man, now, and then definitely with AI, I mean, the smartphones are insane. They're beating out DSLRs and mirrorless cameras. I mean, so, yeah, maybe there's some higher quality ones that you can buy, more expensive stuff. But if you look at the setup and the cost and this and that, and then when you look at what actually performs, that's why I always tell companies, they're like, we're going to do the fancy cameras and all this. I'm like, that's not what performs on social media. You realize that, right? Like if you look at all the data, all of the best performing, the viral videos, the videos that really even convert into clients are done on smartphones, with mics and simple setups and things like that. And sometimes just smartphones without a mic. And then, yeah, you talk about mixing AI in there as part of that technology piece of like, well, now you can make a video and transcribe the video in seconds and then put it in ChatGPT, give it a prompt. And now you got a newsletter, blog post, LinkedIn post. You got micro video clips that can be edited by AI, like an Opus clip, for example, which I think is not great right now, but it's getting better, right? And that's the thing. It's like all this stuff is, you could look at it now and be like, oh, well, it didn't do the best job here. Yeah, we're a year and a half in. Like, where do you think this stuff's going to be 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years in? It's going to be insane. Okay, I'm going to save the next part for the next one because I just thought of something too that I do want to make note of here. Phase 3. So we're moving out of phase 2, early adopter phase. We're moving into phase 3, which is majority adopters. And I have this down as 2024 to 2028. And again, this is like my dates. I didn't like pull this from somewhere. I just went through and was like, based on what I recall in my memory and where I think things are going, these are the dates. And I think honestly, it's probably pretty accurate. But so phase 3 is majority adopters, 2024 to 2028. The reason I say majority adopters here now is because I think that over the next few years, I don't really think it's going to be an option to be able to do social media content, video. I mean, whether it's website, podcasting, YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, doesn't mean you need to do all of them. But I think not having any presence or not having content in an era when we know, and we didn't even talk about this, but the flip side of this is like the customer buyer journey and how customers buy has shifted so much over the last few years. I would say that really started in phase 1, but big time in phase 2, and even more so in phase 3, which is that customers are 80% of the way through, 60 to 80% of the way through the buyer process by the time they book a call with sales. Now, I'm more talking about B2B here, but even if you think about B2C, how we buy things now on Amazon, we watch videos, we do reviews, we do this, and then boom, we buy. We don't want to talk to somebody unless we absolutely have to. We don't want to talk to a person in sales unless we know pricing, about the product or service, roughly how that company can help us get our results, the transformation that we would get. We typically have some level of trust and credibility built up by the time we talk to that person because of the content and the video they've been putting out. So I think that, again, most B2B companies, B2C companies, we're moving into an era where basically you're going to almost not say you can't operate a business without this, because I think you probably can, but I don't know for how much longer. And so I think for that reason, companies, and we're already starting to see this now, right? And even in phase 2, it's like you just see, I have witnessed, I thought everyone's going to get serious about video in 2020. I was like, everyone's going to be doing video and social media and LinkedIn. And I was like, not quite, not quite. It just took like 2 years longer than I thought. But if I look at 2024, there are companies that we're talking to now and working with now, 7-8 figure business, serious businesses that are growing and doing well, but want to do this. That 2 years ago, 3 years ago, they probably wouldn't even have entertained the conversation, because they were so focused on other things. They didn't see us as a priority, when now they do. So I think that majority adopter period is where most companies will make the leap to doing more modern, value-driven video content and social media content. I think we're in the video dominance era. I think in a lot of ways that started in phase 2, early adopters, but it's even more powerful in phase 3, where it's like videos everywhere. I mean, even LinkedIn, obviously they were out their TikTok style feed, just like Instagram did, just like YouTube Shorts did. So like, what does that tell you? It just tells you that it's just such a powerful, that feed-based, algorithm and platform with video is so addicting too. And I think companies realize that, good or bad. It's just like, it is what it is. They recognize it and they say, if we can get people on here, it's very sticky. Where I don't think you find yourself going through the LinkedIn feed, looking at text post and picture post and being like, oh, I can't get off this platform. Like I can't, it's so addicting. I got to see the next text post or carousel. You don't find that. But what you do find is people on YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, TikTok, and now the LinkedIn TikTok video feed. That's where it is addicting, where it's like you're a few videos in, you're like, oh, I know I should get off this thing, but the next video is so good. It was so engaging. You know what I mean? And it knows your interests so well. It has you figured out. That AI in there is just like working wonders on you. So, and then I think we're in the AI evolution. We all turn into robots. It's a matter of time before we're part human and part robot. That's probably true. But I think we're in the AI revolution. We're in the beginning stages of the AI. I would say almost to look at it the same comparison. I think we're kind of in phase 1, the wild, wild west of AI, moving into probably having moved into early adopters, because I think a lot of people are adopting it. Majority are probably not leveraging it the way they should be, but I think we're probably in phase 2, I guess, by now, early adopters. Let's call that first year. I think it happened much faster with AI. It's interesting as now, I've never thought about this before, but social media video, it took like a decade or so, where AI was like, the Wild Wild West was like 6 months. And then it was like early adopters. Everyone's using ChatGPT, prompts, this, that, videos, repurposing tools, AI-based this. So I think we're in early adopter stage, but I think we're going into majority adopters for AI. So AI is here. It's very, very prevalent. It's only going to be more and more important in every aspect, I think, of our life, not even just marketing. So, and I say that in phase 3, 2024 to 2028, the majority of marketing agencies are going to go out of business. And I know that's like rough to say, but it's just that it's the honest to God truth. We will look back at this a few years and say, this is exactly what happened. So I think, look, a lot of them are going to, hopefully adjust and pivot and start helping companies kind of build internally or find a new way to kind of service that customer. I don't think that's like you're never going to outsource anything. I don't think that's the case. I just think the entire model being built around that, where they do all of your content and they come out and shoot for you and do this and do that and post the content for you and write the copy. If I don't think they're doing all of that, I think those companies that stay in that model will be out of business. But certainly there isn't a big opportunity for marketing-based companies. I think it's more strategy, execution for them, helping them through this, building out their internal teams, maybe a little outsourcing mixed in there. And you're just going to see more and more. I think it's going to be a very practical thing for a company to build their own internal team over the next few years, where I don't even think by the end of 2025, 26, I don't even think companies would even really consider working with an agency to do all of their content. I don't even think that's like really an option at that point. So, and then, past phase 3, majority adopters, we've got phase 4, which is just late adopters, 2028. Jeez, I don't even know if it's 2028, D. I think it's like 2026. Honestly, the way things are going, like if you're not, I mean, I would almost even say today, like if we looked at a company and you're a 7 to 8 figure business and you're not taking LinkedIn seriously, video content seriously, social media serious, I mean, you're just not in the present world that we live in. You may not like it. That's fine. I actually don't use social media personally, hardly at all. I try to stay away from it, to be honest. I really don't post personal content. It's all for business. But if you don't see it as an opportunity for your business and are not leveraging that, because that's just where the buyers are, it's like, oh, I don't like social media. I don't like video. Cool. But your customers do. So it's a problem when they go there and you're not there and your competitors are. So that's how I see it, D. Any thoughts on that last couple phases?
Yeah, I think all the points that you raised are all related to each other. Like with content having driven by value more, like in the future years. I think that's also related with how more content are assisted by AI. I think that will also be related. Like people, like even now, like, and I'm sure it will like be more like prominent in the next years, that it's getting like harder and harder to impress people with like, ads that they've been seeing. And it's harder and harder to capture attention if you stick to the usual like paid ads that you've been doing in the previous years, and you don't shift to the value driven content that people will be looking for in the next years. And I think this is also related, not just to AI, but to video being the primary source of information of people in the next years.
Yes.
Like video being the primary search engine that we use over to the traditional search engines that we've been using. So I think that's also related to that. And with like the traditional marketing agencies dying off, I think, though harsh as it may seem, it's probably going to be true, because if that's what's going to happen, that people are looking to videos for information, and they're looking for videos that are like more, if they're looking to videos for their stories even, and for everything that they've been looking for before in other forms of content, then companies will naturally be forced to make it themselves, right? Because that's what people are going to be needing, actually, not just looking for, but that's what they will be needing in the next years. And when like late adopters come in, maybe 2026 to 2028, I think it's not just the companies who are not in social media who are going to be in trouble. I think it's also companies who are in social media but are still stuck to doing like the traditional content where it's it's about themselves, it doesn't have value, and they still have external people doing their content for them. So yeah, so I think it's not just not creating content, it's also like creating content that provides the value that people will be looking for.
Exactly. I wrote down a couple of things and then we'll close this out, but a couple of things you made me think about in terms of the value-based content. Yeah, we saw that kind of early adopter period where people were like still posting the promotional stuff, like we've got an event coming up, this. And well, look, once in a while that's fine, but when all your content is about your company, what you're doing, the conference you're going to, obviously not going to work. It's not the content that they consume themselves. That's what's funny is like, would you consume that content about companies' products and services and the events they're going to? Hell no. So why would you think that when you post it in the feed, your customers are going to want to consume that? It don't make no sense. So I think that's partly that is D, and I saw this as a very early adopter to edutainment on LinkedIn, edutainment content, which is combining educational, messages and inspirational messages with entertainment. I think that's why edutainment is going to continue to rise big time. And so what I mean is like people are just going to find more unique ways to deliver good, solid intellectual messages that do provide value in more entertaining ways. And some of that can be straight entertainment as long as it ties back into the brand and it makes sense and it's relevant to the audience. But I think edutainment, and you're already seeing that in ads where people are like, all right, we got to put out an ad, but we don't want it to look like an ad. We want it to be maybe a little bit, maybe it has some humor in it. Maybe it's a little bit, it's creative, the way we film it, the way we edit it. Like companies are already going down that path. So I wanted to make sure we made note of edutainment going to continue to be bigger and bigger and bigger. We really saw that show up in that early adopter phase, 2018, 2024. The other thing is you mentioned the video being such a big piece of it. Video is a 24/7 sales rep for the business. That's something that we kind of coined as a company, Impacts Marketing, but I just see that being it's so freaking important moving forward. I think it's very important now. And when I say that, what I mean is basically, if you think about you mentioned the customers consuming video and searching for videos, wanting to learn more about how to implement something or a strategy or a tactic or a how-to or whatever it might be, or even frequently asked questions or videos on pricing. Most companies are not doing that. I just came back from California where we were working with a client and we did those videos together. We filmed the frequently asked questions, the pricing videos, offering videos, why they're unique, the hero video, all that stuff. And then the social media stuff. That's how you're going to, if you're going to win in the modern era, when you can position video as a 24/7 sales rep throughout your business. And when I say sales rep, I don't mean pitching products and every step along the way. They're just constantly pitching you. I mean a modern day, legitimate, bona fide salesperson, which means they're probably more of a trusted advisor and a guide versus I'm trying to sell something and jam something down your throat. So just to be clear on that will continue to be a thing, and we'll continue to help companies do that, obviously. And then the AI content, I think we're in a weird period now where most companies, I think, and users are using it lazy. I was going to say lazily. Is lazily a word? I don't know if it's a word, but most companies and people are using AI in kind of a lazy way where they're just like, hey, ChatGPT, write me a LinkedIn post about this. And it's like, that post is not going to be good as it sits today. You need to give it context. You need to get it maybe some example posts. You need to give it, what does a good hook look like? Who is my target audience? What does our business do? Why are we putting this out there? So I think you'll see the emergence over the next few years as some companies, the lazy content is already not working, but I think you're just not going to get away with any type of, hey, we're using AI, but we're half-assing it. You got to really know how to use AI. And so you'll see more companies that we talk about the marketing agencies, the traditional model going away, but you'll see a lot of new companies and people that are AI experts or that help companies build internal teams like we do. So you always see typically a balance, like something goes away and then something new emerges, or something that was existing evolves and that becomes kind of a newer thing. So it's interesting times that we live in, folks. And hey, it's not a question of, again, whether you want it to change or like it to change or whether you prefer it to stay the same. It doesn't matter. It's just changing and you have to evolve with or without it. And that's the case with anything in business. Technology is a big time disruptor. Social media, big time disruptor. AI, big time disruptor. So why not be a pioneer and get ahead of it now versus trying to get on the back end and then be a late adapter? A late adopter. That's our show for today. I'm pumped, D. We got some amazing guests lined up. One of them's coming here out today to the studio. We're trying to really do the guest interviews in person only. We'll see how long I stick to that. I just really like the idea of having someone right here in front of you. We did one last week with our guest, and just the energy is different. I think we'll continue to do these episodes where it's me and you, hosting, co-hosting kind of deal. We'll do these virtual, that's fine. And then the guests will try to get as many as we can in person. The guy I have coming out today is someone that built up a business from 0 to 8 figures in revenue. 100 and something people he had employed, served, I think, thousands of customers, and then made a successful exit. And now he's doing more business coaching. So we got some great people like that lined up that I'm just pumped to talk to. And it's not just like I'm talking about like the business. Yes. How did you build it? What'd you learn? What were the tough, points in time? What were the great points in time? What are the insights we can extract for the audience members? But it's also the life stuff. It's also like, what was it like? Like, how did you balance? You're a dad, you're a mom, and you had kids, but then you're at this business 12 hours. Like, how did that work? Right. And what did you learn? How did you prioritize things? Looking back, what did you learn that you didn't know 5 years ago that you would apply to your life today? So this is Founder Talk. We're talking about, this is picture founders sitting down and talking about business, life, and just the things that are happening. And so that's really what we want to do with the show is make it as real as it can possibly be. And you're a fly on the wall getting to see these conversations. And hopefully it gives you a second, if you're a founder or an aspiring founder, gives you a second to just take a break from building your business. It's okay to take a quick break and just absorb some information and insights from other people that are going through very similar things than you are. Learn from it, grow from it, have some fun while you're here, laugh with us, and be a part of the movement. So that's it, D. I will see you on the next episode.